Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Sunday School preview. I am Charrah Whitaker, and I am thrilled to take you through this week's lesson on the topic, God's vision for the church, from 1 Corinthians chapter 3. As we begin, I have a question for you. If you could live a life of spiritual growth, maturity that inspires others to follow Christ, would you take the necessary steps to become this beacon? Let's reflect on that question as we explore how to align God's vision for His church and address habits or inconsistencies that hinder our spiritual growth. Let's get into this week's lesson from the Apostle Paul, as he wrote to the Corinthians during his third missionary journey. He had received troubling reports of quarrels within the Corinthian church. These issues prompted Paul to write to the church addressing these challenges head on. 1 Corinthians contains practical discussions about the church and the real-life issues faced by early Christians. The church in Corinth was plagued by sin and division, and Paul did not shy away from confronting these problems. His bold call to holiness reminds us that holiness is God's standard for His people. Chapter 3 highlights how a lack of spiritual maturity and division can corrupt God's vision for the church. The lesson unfolds in 3 subtopics: the church as God's field, the church as God's building, the church as God's temple. These metaphors reveal essential characteristics of a healthy church, spiritual maturity, and unity among its members and leaders. The church as God's field. Let's talk about that subtopic a little. Paul describes the church as a field with its members as soil requiring cultivation. Ministers plant and nurture, but God causes the growth. Rivalry and division have no place in God's field. Reflecting on the parable in Matthew 13, we are reminded that receptive hearts yield spiritual fruit, while shallow or stony soil stifles growth. As we cultivate our relationship with God, we bear the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, kindness, self-control, and more. These fruits unite us and draw us together as Christians in the body of Christ. This lesson challenges us to examine our lives. Am I forgiving? Am I kind? Do I practice self-control? These simple yet profound questions help us to embody the fruits of the Spirit, fulfilling our call to unity and witnessing to others. As we prepare for this week's lesson, I won't reveal much more because I know we're all excited about this week's lesson. I will remind you of our question: if you could live a life of spiritual growth and maturity that inspires others to follow Christ, would you take the necessary steps? Would you make the changes needed to do so? What a lovely lesson this week. God bless you all. Thank you.